Woody asked me to talk on something innovation in finance. And I typically work in the cooperative space with my colleague Anthony over there. But today I'm going to use you as a bit of a guinea pigs. There's a concept called biodiversity credits, which sounds pretty dry, and perhaps it is. But I'm doing work in the conservation finance area, and this concept of biodiversity credits, I want to try and test on you to see whether they make sense. So this is a bit of a voyage of discovery for me as well, in the sense of I haven't done this presentation before. Not yet. Let's see how we go. Okay. All right. This work comes out of something that we're doing with, I'm part of, is the Biodiversity Credit Working Group. So this is a group of organisations that are basically conservation finance organisations, some very large ones, and Nature Conservancy is one of the largest global conservation organisations. 10 Deserts Project, the organisation involved with that managed 2/3 of Australia's land mass. So this work has come out of that in the sense of these organisations have recognised that carbon credits aren't sufficient for solving our problems. So what I thought I'm going to do is to start with a small video, very quick, just to give you a quick heads up, and given the picture says 1,000 words. Needs music. I said it was quick, but you probably subliminally picked up what this is about. So, why are we talking biodiversity credits? Why are we talking biodiversity? The thing is that carbon is quite an abstract concept, and there's folk out there who question climate change and question the impact of carbon. Whereas if you look at biodiversity, it's very clearly, tangibly, irrefutably clear that we're killing the planet, basically. So, and we're doing so at an accelerated rate. So over the last 20 to 30 years, the rate has been accelerated. And so these figures are frankly frightening. They've come out of a report that was undertaken by a very large group of environmental scientists, published last year. And when you look at more than 85% of our wetlands have been lost, more than 83% of the population of freshwater species has declined, 60% of the population decline across vertebrates. That is scary. And it continues. So the thing is, this is a critical issue that we need to address. The good thing about it is that we can do something about it. And so, unlike someone turning to me and saying, "Look, Australia only emits 2% of the global emissions," we can actually do stuff locally in relation to our own impact on biodiversity loss. And that's the idea that there are these actions, these activities that we can undertake. So pest control is we lose biodiversity to invasive weeds, to feral animals, the goats and camels and deer that are taking over our landscapes. Hazard management. In the recent bushfires, it was pointed out that cool burning would have helped manage the fuel load. The idea of permanent protection. So I work with Trust for Nature, and we're in Victoria, 10,000 hectares of native bushland still gets lost every year. So we're in the business of permanently protecting high-value native bushland. Land restoration, so the idea of bush restoration post-fire, or because land's been abused in one way or another. We can undertake those sort of activities to increase the biodiversity value of land. And then there's addressing farming practices. So farming practices, the use of fertilisers, the use of pesticides, leading to declines in bee populations and insects, and or the impact on the reef for that matter. And so we can do things about how farmers are using those to more sustainably farm. So these actions can fundamentally change biodiversity. The Threatened Species Hub in Melbourne has done some modelling. they estimate that for a $2 billion spend per annum, we could turn this round. Now, $2 billion sounds like a lot of money, but when you put it in the context that we're spending $12 billion a year on our pets, it's probably a manageable objective, given the need. So it's not like it's a new problem. Like, we've been aware of this for some time, and governments have been spending money on trying to address it. So the Commonwealth Government, for example, have had a biodiversity fund announced under the Rudd government back in 2011, and that got closed down by the Liberal government that then came in, and they then focused their efforts through land care. And there's been a 20 million trees program, and under the Green Army there was 2,000 volunteers, or over 2,000 volunteers mobilised across the country to plant trees and what have you. And the problem with these approaches is it's about government grants. It's about, at the front end, it's about how do you choose which projects to back. And so you run into problems like sports rights by virtue of the fact that it's managed by bureaucracies and politicians. And then unanimously, the reports on these programs after the fact have found that the outcomes, the compliance, is not there. So we're not tracking how the impact these programs are having. And so by virtue of this kind of looseness, this reliance on bureaucracy, we're then effectively crowding out private participation, because the government's left to carry the can, and the private market can't really get their head around the impact that can be achieved. So that's the reason why we're looking towards biodiversity credits. What we're trying to do is to bring some market disciplines to the selection of projects, and then the reporting and the compliance and the delivery of those projects. And so just to understand conceptually, and this is the testing bit, to understand what does a biodiversity credit mean? The idea is what we're investing in is some land, and we want to improve its biodiversity over time. So we're investing in the future biodiversity of land. We're investing in our future through that biodiversity of land. And you can think about biodiversity. There's a number of ways of measuring it. But there's a thing called an econ, and the idea behind that is it's an index from 0 to 100, and 100 represents the native state of that, the natural state of that land. And the more degraded the land is, the lower the value. And so what we're looking to do is to basically invest in land and say we want to achieve its value over time through these activities that are going to occur. And we've identified what those activities could be to actually improve the value of land in the future. So that's what we're trying to achieve through this concept called a biodiversity credit. Now, it's more than the environmental outcomes. We're talking about those activities delivering the higher diversity value. Yeah? And so those activities have to be delivered by community. So in the case of the 20 million trees, there were a very large number of volunteers and community groups activated to actually plant those trees. And so we can measure the social and cultural and economic benefits that are actually derived from delivering the target outcome of increased biodiversity values. So in the Indigenous protected areas and working on country programs, there's a great report that was undertaken by Social Ventures Australia that looked at the social, the return on the investment that the government's making on 5 IPA areas. And so these programs involve retaining, paying for rangers, Indigenous rangers, to actually work on effectively the biodiversity, manage feral populations, cool learning, and what have you. And so the net result of the work they did was to identify that basically the government was getting a 3-time return on its investment. And there was, in essence, 3 ways that return was delivered. One was through the actual biodiversity outcome, the improvement in the quality of the biodiversity value of the land. 2, in terms of the employment of the rangers, so they had an income, and they had the mental health benefits that go with being employed, and the health benefits that go with being employed. And then the communities that those rangers belonged to and that were associated with the land have also had the benefit of the multiplier effect, if you like. So when we're talking about this investment in the future of biodiversity, we're not only talking about improving the quality of the land, we're actually talking about how that's achieved and the benefits that can be derived. So in essence, like in answer to the problems we identified before, One is by having a market mechanism, we can make these projects more accountable. So that having a competitive eligibility process, more transparent reporting, improved compliance, that increases accountability, and thereby we can be more certain of having a bigger impact. We can increase participation. So the government's role in this is to quite possibly to co-invest with private capital in order to invest in these activities. But in addition to that, its role is to lower the barriers for investment. And so by creating scalable processes, by supporting projects through educations and funding accelerator programs or however it be achieved through project development. And so thereby, but the government, by supporting, looking to create scalable efficiencies, they can drive down the costs and thereby deepen the markets. And so the third impact of this is that by virtue of the fact that we can kind of bring some rigour to the structure of the market, we then open up the ability for private capital to participate. So private capital can understand the impact and costs because they're more clearly defined. They can participate in the choice of which projects to support, and because they require it, reporting becomes more transparent, and so that therefore reduces the barriers to investment and increases funding, hopefully. And so that's where we've got to. And like I love this quote from David Attenborough from Davos last year, but effectively he's saying we now understand the impact we're having on the world. And we can actually do something about it. And so that fits very much with the ethos behind the biodiversity credits. So this is a really tangible, tangible thing that's happening. Post the bushfires, there has been a massive response, governmental response and community response in terms of capital flowing into that sector. The Commonwealth Government, Minister Lay had a meeting with the conservation finance sector last 2 weeks ago. There was 40 representatives there. They all, Nature Conservancy was leading the way and presented a united front where they said, look, we need $4.5 billion cut down 3 ways. Part of it would go to finance this. To my way of thinking, so this is going to happen in the sense that money will flow to support, and the Nature Conservancy is leading this charge as well. So this is going to happen, and to my way of thinking, there's an opportunity for stakeholders, communities to actually participate, because it's the communities that deliver the activities. And so that's, I guess, the question I'm kind of grappling with in this forum. Is like, well, how do we kind of corral our energies to actually participate in that forum? Otherwise, it'll be left to the conservation finance folk to go, well, we're going to do these conservation activities.